Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond Borders. Don't know why I said welcome back, considering it's the first episode. Today, our topic is DACA. But before we get started, I'd like to go around and have everyone say their names, who you are, and why we are talking about this, spoiler alert, very important and pressing issue. I will start. I am your moderator for today. My name is Jules Dreitzer. I'm a BA Theater Studies major, and I'm a Sagittarius, which is a problem for some people.
Hi, I'm Nyilah Moreno, and I'm a psych major.
Hi, my name is Cozzolino, and I am a television and digital media production major with minors in IMC and environmental studies, and I'm excited to talk to everyone today.
Hi, my name is Carrion. I'm an integrated marketing communications major with the Latinx studies minor, and can't wait to get into it.
Me neither. So just jumping right in, let's talk what is DACA, what does it stand for, and why is it worth fighting for and maintaining?
So essentially, DACA was created by President Obama back in
2012, I think it was.
Okay, great. And it stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So it's essentially United States immigration policy that allows immigrants who are under the age of 16 and were brought unwillfully, so let's say you were brought from a different country as a baby, to kind of have like this like quasi citizenship where you like can get a driver's license now and like you can apply for jobs and stuff despite the fact that you don't have like, you know, a green card.
But wait, it's temporary, isn't it? It doesn't last.
No.
So that adds a layer of difficulty.
So I know I asked why DACA is worth fighting for. I'd also like to ask what about DACA could be changed to make it a more positive program?
There are lots of things that could be changed. When thinking about, when I was doing my research, I found a lot about like the mental health of DACA recipients and how the temporary nature of the program really puts a lot of pressure on the recipients and makes it very time sensitive for them to have to apply to schools, get a job, and do all of these things. It's very, very pressurized.
I was taking a look at the mental health impacts too, and I mean, who can blame them? I think it sort of goes back to this idea of the personal is political, but also the political is personal. Like, I can only imagine when you have a government who isn't sure whether or not you have a legal right to be there. Of course, you can't focus on finals. Your right to exist is being threatened. Like, that is such a harrowing experience. How could you be expected to sort of function as a citizen?
Yeah.
And while I don't think you should have to keep reapplying, if you're gonna have to keep reapplying, I don't think a 2-year period is a long enough time. Like, you're just always gonna be at this state of unease.
Absolutely not.
Like, at least if it was like every like decade or so, you know, like just to check in with you, like just like, you know, like, do you have a job? Are you like utilizing these resources? But like every 2 years, like, especially like if you get it when you're like 15, like you're still a child figuring out your life, and it's stressful.
Sid, I believe you found out how much does it cost to apply again?
It costs $495 to apply.
And that's every 2 years?
Yeah. So how are students going to be able to go to school and do work at the same time? It doesn't really add up.
It really doesn't.
I know one of my sources, which essentially talks about how low-income families, like, with DACA, like, tends to struggle a lot more compared to those who, like, are from a higher income bracket. Because at the end of the day, like, it's not equal. Like, there's a lot of economic inequality because it should be accessible for everybody of undocumented status, not just those who can afford the fee every 2 years.
Absolutely. So, as we all remember from the fateful 2016 election, we went from Barack Obama to Donald Trump.
Boo.
Boo is right. And I know that one of the Trump campaign major issues, I'm sure we all remember, build that godforsaken wall, was anti-immigration, specifically against Hispanic individuals trying to cross the border from Mexico. So how did the notoriously anti-immigrant Trump administration handle and respond to DACA?
Well, they wanted to get rid of it altogether.
No surprise there.
Yeah, they wanted to get rid of all these benefits that these people were getting. And it's like a direct attack to immigrants, a direct attack to people of color, and it's very messed up.
It's interesting because it's already such a difficult process that already, like, you have to reapply every 2 years, and to take even that most basic, try to take that most basic safety net away is just so cruel and so such an awful thing to do to those families.
Yeah, I feel like Trump's whole campaign was criminalizing people across the borders.
Oh, certainly.
Completely. Like 15-year-olds who are applying for this program, and you're just going to sweep the floor from under them and just get rid of it. It's very, very wacky.
It all comes from, systemic racism and his white supremacy.
Certainly.
Had we had an issue with, because right now, like, not an issue, but we have like a majority of the immigrants using DACA from Hispanic countries. Had there been an influx of Italian immigrants or German immigrants,
Canadian
immigrants that were using this program, he wouldn't have tried to cut it.
No,
absolutely.
His own wife is an immigrant. She's just a white immigrant.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't really care, do you?
What?
No, she wore that dress that said, I don't really care, do you?
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
It was a whole thing. She was getting off of her private jet.
It was quite
The back of her
bad.
jacket
Lord.
said, I don't really care
Yeah.
to you. It just
So-
shows her.
Yeah.
fucking
So
poverty.
after the disastrous aftermath of the Trump administration, what is the current state of DACA in the United States of America?
Well, luckily, I was looking at some current things,
Okay.
and there was a new reinstatement of it in 2021, I believe.
yeah, it was either 2020 or 2021, but it was around that time.
Yeah, so it was reinstated at least by Biden or whoever did that. But it just seems like there's even more hoops to jump through at this point for people.
Yeah, people love their bureaucracy, don't
They
they?
really do.
And
Truthfully.
it really plays into the fact that it would hurt U.S. taxpayers more to deport DACA recipients than to keep it to keep it as a system. So it just plays into like the role of like how capitalism plays such a big role into these issues. That even though people might not want DACA to be the system that's in place, they still want it because of the money that goes into it.
Absolutely. It's interesting. So this is a lot to wrap our head around, but why don't we talk a little bit about this class, Policing the Borderlands, and how this class has sort of interacted with DACA and how it has helped us have these conversations and think through what a better world would look like without DACA, with a reworked DACA, just how it would look and like what we got from this class in terms of that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we learned a lot from Harsha Walia this semester.
Absolutely.
Queen.
Yeah, literally queen. We love her. One interesting aspect of that for me was the idea of like policing bodies and the government like having control over people's bodies. That was a very interesting aspect.
It is
that
really
Walia
interesting,
brought
and
up.
especially when you consider how much physical labor immigrants are often forced into, and especially within the prison population. Bodies are a very politicized thing, whether it be fat bodies, brown bodies, pregnant bodies. And it really is so dehumanizing. And especially like returning to the topic, brown bodies for labor and for all these things, it's really harrowing and it's really upsetting.
Yeah, and the idea of border imperialism was a very big thing that Walia brought up.
Well, so speaking of imperialism, obviously we know we are at Ithaca College and we are on the stolen land of the Haudenosaunee and Gaia-Gaono indigenous communities.
Yes.
How can we learn about something like DACA when we are occupying stolen land and our educational institution is occupying stolen land?
That is a very important point that you bring up. And everywhere is stolen land. Everywhere you walk is
Absolutely.
stolen land. So it's like, how do we respect those cultures, but when we're actively like ignoring them?
Of course, and like something like a land acknowledgement is so nice in theory, but in practice it's sort of just like, hey, I took something from you a really long time ago and I broke it and I'm not going to give it back, but hey, look, I have it.
Yeah, here's a little plaque for you. We'll give you a little acknowledgement.
And how dare we even sit here and talk about imperialism on this stolen land?
True.
and just sort of benefiting positive. Well, none of us benefit positively from colonialism, but like our institution is inherently a colonialist institution because we have not given the land back to the indigenous communities who hold stewardship of the land. So how can we talk about these progressive conversations when we are committing those imperialist acts simply by existing here?
Yeah.
Not to like go off topic and start talking about Ithaca College a little too much,
Go
but
crazy.
I can do it for days. Like we barely, if we even do, have like a Native American population on this campus. Like it's not like the school does very much to get Native American students here. Like I honestly feel like if you're from like the tribe like that was like on this grounds, like you should get full tuition.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. At the very least.
At the very least, like because look at, I'm sorry, but like I love Park, right? But Park scholars get this full tuition for like operating a video camera, like you know, and it's just like usually furthering people who already have privilege. The school just continues to push people who already had the opportunities in order to get those scholarships.
And how can we even begin to talk about keeping people in this country and this policy that is so fragile when the people who held stewardship over this land, we can't even, we insist on displacing. It's really interesting, and it obviously creates this understanding that imperialism is everywhere, and forcing people off of their indigenous land is everywhere. And it's not just America, it's pretty much all of the like colonized countries.
Yeah.
It's a very sobering thing to think about. So what was everyone's perception and experience with DACA growing up? Just in terms of what you heard about it, maybe you heard something on the news and were like, Mommy, what's that? None of you talked like that. But just sort of your own personal experience and consciousness with DACA, and how you feel about it, how you were told by your parents to maybe feel about it.
One of my first times that I kind of learned about DACA was through a TV show called The Fosters.
I was just about to say that. Are you kidding? Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, where there was these two characters that were sisters. One of the older sister was a DACA recipient, and something happened with her DACA status where she had to stay in a church for a really long time, and that was something that like I didn't really know about it very much at the time. I was maybe around 12, but that was like my first experience learning about DACA and how it affects the immigrants here in the U.S.
Did it have a happy ending? Because honestly, from what I remember, didn't she get sent away? Do you remember what happened?
I know that their parents were detained, and the older sister was a DACA recipient. The younger sister was a U.S. citizen because she was born in the country. So it was just like the different ways that like the blended statuses of these families, where the parents did not have their green cards and their daughter was a DACA recipient and their youngest daughter was a U.S. citizen, just like dealing with all the different types of like statuses and how that affected their family.
Yeah, I feel like we learned a lot about that this semester.
We really did.
The idea of like families being torn apart, living
The
across
documentary.
borders. Yeah, the documentary.
So we watched a documentary this semester called A 3-Minute Hug, where families who had been separated, had not seen each other in years, got to hug each other at the Mexico and U.S. border. And just that contact and the organization of that was so powerful for so many people, especially because it's such an inherently nonviolent act, like something like policing that. It's like, how could you know, just because it is so inherently a human and very peaceful act. Not that you'd have to be peaceful to earn respect, but yeah.
I think that relates to like the temporary nature of DACA itself. Like, let's give these people a crumb.
Yeah. So all of these issues, and we haven't even scratched the surface, but what is our call to action? What do we feel we can do about it? What do we feel others can do about it?
I think we all just need to keep educating ourselves and read.
I would agree.
And stay informed.
Yeah.
I think we're at a time, like, in American history, I mean, honestly, we always are, but, like, everybody's rights are in crisis because they're being attacked, you know, whether you're a woman or a person of color or whatever. So I think it's really important to, like you said, keep educating yourselves and, like, really ourselves and really understand this, because there's going to be another point in time where this gets attacked, just like a bunch of really other beneficial programs are going to get tried to removed, and it's going to help if we understand them so we can fight for them.
It's absolutely true. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that we have inspired you. We hope that we have educated you. This has been Beyond Borders. I am Jules Dreitzer.
Nyilah Moreno.
Sydney Cozzolino.
And Destiny Carrion.
And stay educated.
And we will have a link to our sources that we use
we
this
will.
podcast at a link tree that we will be adding at the end.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Thank you.